All right, over to you, Jane.
All righty. And I apologize in advance if there's a lot of noise behind me. I was just saying to Jane at the beginning, I'm actually in our lab at the moment, and it's in the building at the University of Toronto, and it's the grand opening of the new building. So there's a lot of people going past on tours and they're being very noisy. So just bear with me. Alrighty. So hi, I'm Jane. I'm the founding CEO of Atorvia. I'm a pharmacist, and I've spent the last 2 decades in the pharmaceutical industry developing and commercializing drugs. And I've seen firsthand that despite major scientific advances in science and technology, there are still no effective treatments for patients with kidney failure. At Atorvia, we have a vision to end this and are addressing it by developing unique drugs to prevent and treat failure. And we're starting with one that doesn't discriminate. Kidney failure is one of the most common complications of surgery of any kind, and it costs hospitals $1.2 billion a year, adds millions of days to patient stay, and increases the likelihood of patients being in the ICU and extending the stays in the ICU. And I want you to meet Nigel. Nigel is a 58-year-old delivery driver undergoing routine heart surgery. His surgeon expects him to be able to go home within about 5 days, given that otherwise he's fit and healthy. The heart surgery itself went well. However, during it, he experienced a decrease in kidney function. And after surgery, instead of being placed in the ward, Nigel was transferred to the ICU and ended up on dialysis. An otherwise successful surgery resulted in an extra 10 days of hospital stay, 5 of which were in the ICU. And since discharge, he's been monitored not just for signs of permanent kidney failure, but also the impact that kidney failure can have on the worsening of the heart as well. At Atorvia, we have developed a unique drug that will prevent kidney failure during surgery. Although still in the early stages, this drug will be the first of its kind, and we have some compelling data to show that it works. And we're actually really excited about its potential, not just to prevent kidney failures in patients like Nigel, but also to be able to save hospitals billions of dollars, as well as freeing up hospital beds and preventing billions of dollars in readmission costs. We're extremely well placed for success, and we're actually adopting quite a different approach from our competitors. This is obviously a really scientific slide here, so I do apologize. During surgery, something unique happens in the kidney cells that programs them to die. And it's a little bit like having a glitter-filled party balloon pierced with a needle. Once it pops, there's no going back. You can't reconstruct the balloon. Our unique drug stops cells from dying. Effectively, we stop the needle from moving in the first place, keeping the kidney cells alive. This area has been notoriously difficult, but we're confident that our unique approach will set us up for success. Almost all of our competitors are focused on what happens after the cell is already programmed to die. In other words, they are focusing on the fragments of burst balloon and the spilled glitter, trying to reconstruct it. And historically, there have been really high failure rates for drugs in these areas. So since we're preventing the cells rather from dying in the first place, with the evidence that we've generated, we're confident that Atorvia will succeed. As a team, we have full cycle expertise in drug discovery through clinical development and commercialization, with the scientists who first undertook this work advising us. We also have been supported by world-class life sciences experts and are already establishing relationships with pharma companies. We see Merck here, Novartis, Novo Nordisk, Bayer, because ultimately these companies are now focusing on kidney, and this is most likely to be our exit. This is a growing market, and even though the risk is higher for major surgeries like heart valve replacement, even stent replacement, something which we see commonly, actually results in 27% of patients will develop kidney failure during a stent placement. We plan to start in high-risk patients in high-risk surgeries, but our plan is to expand to all forms of heart surgery and then all forms of surgery, period. And it's there's been really good exit flow in the last 12 months. In the last 12 months alone, 12 to 18 months alone, there's actually been quite some significant movement. And this is quite surprising given that up until now, pharma companies have really left this alone. Although we're still early, we know the drug structure, we know how it works, but it's in its current form, it's not scalable in a way that will allow us to be able to use it in all surgeries while optimizing profitability. So we're now focusing on the manufacturing process to allow for future scale with the lowest possible COGS, to allow us to price at an order of magnitude, and that we can reach our vision of hospitals using it for all surgeries, not just high-risk ones. Because we know from patients like Nigel that even any drop in kidney function during surgery is detrimental to patients and to the cost of the healthcare system. And we've reached some quite significant traction. Just in the last 12 months, aside Sheboot, we've won the Johnson & Johnson Effervescence Prize this year. We won the Blue Ticket Award for SpinUp, which is the lab that I'm in just now, that's being sponsored by Merck. They're paying for that for the next 12 months and mentoring us. We've just recently graduated from Creative Disruption Labs. We're part of IOFlex in Ottawa, which is fantastic. Can't say enough about it. And in addition, we've also been part of the Obio Women in Health Initiative, which has come with funding from the FedDev of Southern Ontario. And I'm having the problem with Euban here. We're advancing towards our first clinical data set in 2027. And as I've mentioned, the majority of the fund deployment that we're looking at is in order for that manufacturing and production. It's a 12-month for us to be able to get to this next milestone, but being familiar with regulators, we know that that could take longer. So we're planning for 18 months. In terms of our freedom to operate, we know that we've done an IP landscape analysis that has highlighted that no one else is taking this approach, and we have a plan to ensure that we can maintain that advantage. We're effectively a spin-out from Boston University, so although based in Ottawa and a Canadian company, we are a spin-out from BU. We have a methods of patent granted with composition of matter filed, and any future IP will be Atorvia owned. And we're also in the process of developing a commercially relevant IP pipeline with the manufacturing process, also in other fields of kidney, as well as in other organs. We're raising a 1.2 million pre-seed round that will allow us to progress to scale. I've mentioned already about the manufacturing. And ultimately, at the moment in this current format, we won't be able to reach that scalability. So we're looking at addressing that, and ultimately the majority of the funds will be deployed in that manufacturing process to allow us to scale formulation and production, as well as doing that first preclinical work. And we're looking for strategic investment. It's not just about the cash, we're really looking for people to come along the journey with us. And the other beauty of this being in the life sciences industry, there is quite a lot of non-dilutive funding available out there. We just need we need match funding to be able to do that. And by raising, we're going to be able to unlock those funding opportunities. So in summary, it's an unserved $3 billion market, and we have a first-in-class drug that's in development to prevent that kidney failure during surgery. We have compelling early data, we have a deep team expertise, and we're raising that $1.2 million seed to allow us to reach a candidate to get into clinical studies in 2025. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jane. All right, Martin, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, neat, great. It's awesome. Glad you're doing that. The wrap up I loved. So I felt like you got stronger as you went. The ending, the kind of the commercialization strategy, the funding, and the kind of like put a pin in it at the end. That was all really, really strong. The beginning didn't pull me in really strongly at the start, and so I think there's a couple things to that. One is you kind of talked about the company before talking about Nigel, and I think you kind of got to start with the story, and then and then you didn't really personalize Nigel. And I don't know if you know Nigel or Nigel's made up, but like it seemed to me like Nigel was made up because like there was nothing about Nigel. It's just the facts of the story, right? And so whether it's about you or Nigel or someone else, or but that really putting me in the life of Nigel and his family or whatever at the start of that story, I think really that'll pull people in. So that's like the story. And then this is me, so I mean take it as my opinion, right? But like I would tell the story, then I would say what happened, right? Like why did that happen? The balloon analogy and being like non-technical, love that. That was really well done. But I think that's this is what happened to Nigel. This is why. This is what actually happens during surgery. And then this is what we've got. Like, and then now this is how we're solving it. This is the company, etc. So I think that would take the investor through the story much better. And one other thing before I give other people time, I think you made like a quick comment about exit strategy when you were talking about mentors. I think that's in that and the like you talk about strategic investors and you talk about the exit and you talk about the deal motion, like that was good, but I think you want to elaborate both on that exit part and on the strategy start, and they're related, right? Like, but I think you could spend more time painting that picture. Does that make sense?
That's great feedback. Thank you.
I agree with Martin. It was very strong. I also liked the balloon. I didn't know where it was going until the next slide, and I liked how you differentiated what you're working on versus what other companies are working on, you know, before the burst and after the burst. I think that was very well articulated. And like Martin, I was also uncertain of what happens in a surgery that results in kidney failure. And I'm guessing that your solution is, you know, pharmaceutical to avoid whatever it is. But I think if it's more clearly stated, and then I think you touched on that this is your first, you know, like your vision is beyond addressing kidney failure in surgery. So you might want to expand that a little bit more, that this is, you know, the first of what you're planning to address. In the slide on timelines, it gave timing increments versus years. For me, it might be a very different reaction for other people. But like my head is in 2025, 2026, but once I have to do the math of the increments, it feels less real to me. That there's not a real plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback. One other thing, just as you were talking about that and I was thinking about it, there's a lot of information on your funding slide because it's a long road.
Exactly.
You may want to find a way to highlight the near term stuff. Like, 'cause I think painting that picture is really important, but you also want to get people excited about the next 12 to 18 months. And it's maybe lost in the noise a little bit.
Yeah.
And all of the projects that you're involved in towards the end, the effervescent, I think that was fantastic how you brought that in. It gives you a lot of credibility.
Good, thank you. And I will work on that. So Nigel is a patient. That's not his real name, but it was actually one of our advisors who called me up literally beginning of the week and said, I was on the wards and I just wished that you had your drug in market, because we had this patient come in and we could see the signs during surgery. And so it was this sort of based on his story. So he's kind of a classic, you don't expect him to have it, but he gets it, and it was a horrible ending for him. So so we'll sort of make that a little bit more personalized.
Yeah, no, that's like, it's a terrible story. I think it's very compelling, told the right way. So that's like, yeah.
Great story. Wonderful. That's fantastic feedback. Thank you so much. Okay.